My name is Ryan. I'm from the Drone Racing League in New York City, and it's kind of like VR. So we are the premier drone racing league in the world. We're not live yet. We launch in a few weeks, so a lot of this stuff no one's seen before. We produce a global series of racing events all over the world. Hey, all right. We invite the best pilots, we go to exciting locations, and we have a drone race. We're kind of like half our company is a media company and half the company is a technology company. I'm going to be taking you through some of the technology today. I'm nervous talking in front of everybody too. So drone racing, what you do is you wear a pair of goggles, and through a camera on the drone, you pilot. And that sounds really simple, but when you actually have goggles on and you hello? And you guys hear me now? Okay, good. So you have a camera on the drone, you wear goggles, and you pilot that way. And you actually feel like you're on the craft. It feels like you're flying. It's a little bit step forward from a video game. A video game, you get really into it. When you actually are flying, you actually feel like you're in the air. And it goes fast. The drones last about 2 or 3, 4 minutes in the air. They're capable of about 110, 100 miles an hour. They can fly any which way you want. And it's a whole different type of racing. Instead of left and right, like regular racing, you can go up and down and left and right, total 3D. And a lot of amazing pilots are coming out in the world. I think there's probably about 60 guys who are at a professional state, but they're able to manipulate the craft in any which way you can imagine. I can't share a lot of the stuff that we're going to be launching with in a couple weeks, but I can share with you some racing and what it looks like today. There we go. That's a video. So this is, no, you can just do me. It's cool. So this is drone racing. This is at our field in Long Island, and a good composition of what it's like. You actually see this through the goggles. You actually forget that you're on the ground, and you actually fly. This is my mom's house. And it's pretty crazy. Like, the copters are really tiny. So here's my favorite one right now. And this guy weighs about 200 grams, and he goes about 80 miles an hour. It's kind of fun. Got a camera in the front, 4 motors. Hopefully this is the right way. Nope. Cool. So we've had 2 races so far. We call them levels, just like video games. So level 0 was in Yonkers, and that was a test event. We brought some of the best pilots in the world. We went to a dilapidated power plant. It's called the Glensdale Power Plant, better known as the Gates of Hell. A lot of gang initiations apparently went down there. And we built a 3D course. We hung up green gates and red gates, exit gates, but green gates are the ones that the course goes through. We had a winner and a loser. And what we do at the Drone Racing League is we provide our pilots with stock racing drones so we can control the performance, we can control the visibility, and we can control the radios. Because right now, drone racing is in its infancy. There's a lot of guys just soldering stuff in their garages and basements. So we do that for them. And that's what I'm going to be talking about today. OK. Here's some of the images that we got from the Gates of Hell. We have videos. That's what we come out with. But you can imagine it's really beautiful and fun. And you can go. There we go. Through 3D space, the images are really beautiful. Level 2, we went to the Miami Dolphin Stadium. We had a course about a mile long. This is our first race that we scored. We had point-based values and checkpoints and really true competition. Here's some images from there. Here's just some of the gates that we have around the stadium, some of the lighting that we use in the back parts. We like a lot of lasers and a lot of smoke. And I'm here today to talk about our fleet. Specifically about performance, visibility, radios, our pit crew, and stability. So first thing is performance. We have to make drones that fly really fast and perform as well as our pilots expect them to. This is footage from our racer and one of our pilots in Long Island taking it for a trip. And some of the pilots who come to our events are some of the best in the world, and they expect a craft that can change fast rates, go really fast, hold together really well. And this is our Racer 2, the stock racer we have at our current events. We use the latest and greatest technologies that we can find in Scour. So these are hand-wound motors built in China, and some of the best performing motors you can get. This is a very simple flight controller. It's basically a calculator, but it samples gyro rate really well and then does amazing PID controllers that actually make you feel like you're using Xbox when you're flying. It's incredibly accurate. And then we get these ESCs from a guy in Canada, really fast responding ESCs. They control the signal from the flight controllers to the motor. And we offer up a craft that is really high performing for our pilots, so they feel comfortable and whatnot. We go through a lot of gear. For each race, we build about 80 to 100 rigs so that they can withstand crashing and they can endure the entire event. Usually an event will last 4 days. We'll have practice so they can get used to a line. We'll give them a qualifying round so they can start to get a position, and then a final, which where they determine their point value. This is Matty Stunts, one of the best pilots in the world, ripping our rig apart to see if it can withstand 100% throttle over a period of time. That's a lot of amps and a lot of drain on the battery. The next thing that we really care deeply about is visibility. If you guys have seen drone racing on TV or read about it on the news, you really can't see the things in the air. Would one of you guys mind just firing that on? A large part about racing is you can actually see the motorcycle or see the car as it's heading down the track. Right now, drones are these tiny little things like I showed you earlier, and you can't even see them in the sky. Thank you. This is Teddy. Teddy and Trevor here are two engineers from DRL. They came to make fun of me. I get nervous talking in front of crowds. But this is a drone that you obviously can see in the air, and that's a big part of what we do. So those little lights are our favorite. They're called WS2812s. They're little tiny circuits in an LED. It's a microchip and some wires going to it, so we can actually change the color of the drones. We covered our whole entire drone in those things. There's about 90 in there. 90. So the entire drone is covered with these LEDs, the top, the bottom, the sides, so you can determine who's who in the air. You can give any pilot any color they want, and for an audience member, you can say, okay, the red guy, that's Matty, he's in front. The blue guy, that's Sharpoo, and he's in the back. And to us, that's a huge differentiator for having a sport, or having a league, or having competition. You have to be able to determine who's winning and who's losing. We cover these, and it's a big part of our rig and what separates us from other leagues. The other thing is props. The props that we use spin at ridiculous high RPMs. They're made with certain plastics, they're balanced with a certain machine, and there's only one guy in the world who can make props that actually function. His name is Zihong. It took us 45 minutes to get colored props, but we have colored props so that you can see them in the daytime as well. And that's visibility. Here's a test that we have in the office, checking to make sure that the drone looks good on camera, and you can tell it's the green drone, obviously. And he has green LEDs and green props. And here's the only piece of media I'm going to show you today, but this is from Miami. You can definitely tell red from purple. Cool. Next thing I want to talk about is our pit crew. To have a real proper drone racing league, you need a ton of manual labor. We have to have rigs in the air that are capable of high performance and can withstand crashing, like I said before, and are assembled by an amazing group of people who can make a ton of them and make them right. Us three are wrenchers. We have another three back at the office who assemble these robots. And it's a ton of effort. Everything has to be painstakingly tested over and over and over again, because when the cameras are on and the pilots are ready and they traveled and they practiced, it's a real sport. We take it really seriously. This is a time lapse. We do this every Friday. We go through our entire fleet, front to back, making sure everyone is in tip-top shape, ready to haul ass. We have a modern-day procedure built upon our robots. I think we're the only robotic pit crew in existence, which is kind of cool. But we can churn one fleet from another, which means if 6 pilots go up and those rigs hit concrete walls and are destroyed, we can return those rigs to full status and replace those pilots with new rigs within, I think, 95 seconds we're at right now, which is pretty good and a big part of racing. And we make a ton of them. Here's our logo in rigs, in drones. Stability. The drones must fly. Currently, if you build a racing drone, you put the components together with wire, and that would take forever. We build our drones so that they're assembled really quickly. We have a single PCB where all the signals and wires run through it. They're high amperage PCB. Trevor makes them. They can take a ton of current, and you can put them together pretty quickly. They also give status indicators about if things are working properly, if it has low batteries, if it's not working correctly, so we can maintain them. If one goes into a wall, we can figure out what's wrong with it and fix it really quickly. And each pilot operates in a different world with different settings and different tunes and different everything. It's incredibly complex to make a racing drone and just give it to a pilot and expect him to perform. So we have to take his settings and work with him prior to a race to make sure that his rigs are set up the way that he wants. It's an intense operation. There's hundreds of different settings for each drone, and that's a big process that we have. Here we are live at Miami. These are rigs set up for each pilot with a little queue, so as they go down, we replace them with fresh ones. And that's big crew. Radios. So like I said before, the only way to really control a drone is through your video signal. If you lose your video signal, you can't fly anymore. It's a really important part of racing, or racing a drone. Right now, everybody uses analog. Analog video has no latency, and if you start to get interference, you see noise in your video, but you can still kind of make out which way you're going. It's kind of like a baby monitor. Digital video hasn't worked just yet. We are constantly checking out new video devices that supposedly have no latency or can have interference without dropping frames, but the tried and true method so far is analog, and we use that extensively. So the rigs I have in there, I keep seeing the word rigs, but the drones I have in there more or less use analog video. It's NTSC 60 TVL cameras, like security cameras, and they perform. I can see. We record with a different camera, a GoPro for post-production, but our main flight camera is through a camera which is through radios. So a lot of our work goes into radio work. We basically install a small network, and you see our drones have extensive antennas on the top so that can gain reception. In Miami, we had an extensive line about a mile long. We had to gain radio reception throughout the entire venue. It's basically a small cell network we install and design around multipathing and reflections and how many pilots are up and so forth. This was a tough one. There's a lot of reflections and multipathing. And a large part of what we do is still undercover because we're the only league who can actually get drones behind a wall and put them far away. That's a joke slide. Here's us testing a new venue. The GoPro feed is on the left and the analog feed is on the right. You can see it start to break up as we get down a hallway, which means we need to put more work into that hallway, and that's a big part of what we do. You can see how the security camera behaves much better than the GoPro as well in low light conditions. Cool. And that's all I have. I'm Ryan. DRL.
So thank you very much. I think the first question is, when can we play? Do we have to be professional?
Yeah, we're a professional league. Yeah, it takes a little bit. It's hard.
What about complete amateurs? Friends on Hardwired?
Sure, absolutely. Come on.
At a very basic level, what are the roles? So how many drones compete at a given point in time, and how many laps, I guess?
So for Miami, we had 12 pilots show up. We had 1 lap for a race. And it's kind of like tennis. You get multiple heats. Because there's a lot of crashing and a lot of speed, and because the drones go so fast and they have a battery that only lasts so long, We have a typical race is made of multiple heats. So you get multiple tries at a line, and we give you points based on how well you perform and how fast you can get through. One heat is about, I think the fastest lap was 1 minute and 20 seconds. Yeah, it's fast. Average speed is about 55 miles an hour. They go pretty quick.
Awesome. Do you guys questions? Okay, this gentleman right here.
Hi, speak very close to the mic. That's okay? Yeah, that's okay. So how do you ensure that the drones that you're providing to participants are generating variation, basically? How do you ensure like a rating, basically, on the drones?
Say that one more time.
Since you're,
Is that FAA compliant?
oh, no, sorry.
Rule.
Since you're basically providing the drones to the participants, how do you ensure that each of them are basically equal and not like there are no issues?
Oh, we build them all with all the same components. All the drones are the same rig.
Okay.
We give a pilot training period time, so a month before an event we ship them an actual drone so they get to test it out, fly it, get used to it, get their muscles correct, and also develop their settings that we then put onto the drone.
Have you guys ever considered making like the engineering part of the competition so that each team will have to fill according to a set of rules?
Definitely. I would love to have McLaren and BMW, Koenigsegg design drones for each team. I think that's where it's going. Yeah.
Just combining the last topic, what's the situation? If I wanted to watch this, like how would I plug in? How do I engage? Are you broadcasting it, or are you recording it, or what's the?
Yeah, so we're going to be distributing content on January 26th via YouTube, Instagram, and so forth. We're like any other organization like the NFL or the MLB, we'll be distributing content in the same way. We don't have live events just yet, but that's in our roadmap.
And the goggles look like Avigons, which presented at this event before. Is that?
Yeah, we've used Avigant for, we have two racers that we work on. One is SD, one is HD. The Avigant work with the HD, and we use analog goggles for the SD.
That's really awesome. So, can you track the position of the drones in real time? Just curious, or if that's your plan.
You can optically if you have infrared and so forth, but GPS doesn't really work with a high fidelity of data.
What's the prize?
Cash. Yeah, we distribute cash for prizes, yeah, absolutely. We think that racing and pilots are professionals. I think they're athletes. It takes an immense amount of skill and training to become a professional pilot. I am a pilot, I work hard every day. These guys are astonishing. So we think that they're champions. We want to make them professional as much as they can, and we give out prize money for winners.
Very much to those last points. I mean, is that eventually is that an e-sport? I mean, is that something that gets massively distributed? Everybody has their whatever VR goggles, or Avignon goggles, and you can watch the thing in quasi-virtual reality.
Sure, there's latency over the internet. You need about 20 milliseconds of latency between stick command and the drone moving. It's not like, you know, Halo Online, where a server will make up for the latency.
Time for one or two more questions. Thank you. You're faster enough than I am.
Thank you. Could you speak to the logistics of those locations at all? And anything about like how much time you had there to set this up, how many people were involved? It seems incredible that you took these locations and you got radio working.
It's tricky. Each venue is different, and we have a group of RF engineers that we work with to design the radios backwards from. Going in and deciding a line is like a balancing act. So we have to assign radio, we have to decide camera angles, and we have to assign what's the best actual flight line. And it's a huge debate. Sometimes venues are really easy for radios and for cameras, and sometimes they're really hard. So it's a malleable thing that as a team we all work toward to figure out the best competitive sport and what's going to offer up the best radio and cameras. Absolutely, yeah.